All right, time for weekly outlook. So quite a bit to get into this week. Um, Pretty simple, I want to say. We got a lot of inside days last week. Um, ES a little less, NQ one more, I believe. But one, two, three, yeah, one, two, three, four inside days and six possible sessions since this 90-day tariff pause thing. We've been range bound essentially within the upper end of that, right? If we just mark off like the 50% of that, I think we're sitting essentially like right. Yeah, we've closed every session essentially at the above that. Um, but an inside day going into Monday, an inside week going into this week. Uh, as a bull, not the greatest. I know last week we discussed the idea of, let's switch over to ES here. Last week we discussed the idea of these pivot highs that we saw here. And then this Wednesday took us up. Thursday pulled us back. And then Friday kind of established value, sort of where Thursday ended, where we ended the end of the session Thursday, and then ended a little higher. And then Monday, Tuesday of last week was higher. So this made me think, somewhat bullish if we could stay above this spike um, at Wednesday's excess. But we got some news Tuesday after the close, gap down and established value back essentially within this last Thursday and Friday range, right? Or two Thursday and Fridays ago. Kind of just lingering at these pivot highs and now breaking lower overnight for now. We'll see what we do up against Friday's low or last week's low come RTH. I'm not going to be fading a break, right? Because the idea when I'm looking at this is your bulk of value. Well, not really one big bulk, but this is your area of value that we've sort of deemed fair value the last couple of weeks. So accepting back into that, right? As you can see on this profile, we do that, fail lower, do this. I am expecting this to now kind of come down into here. I did swing some calls, only because I thought there was an underlying bid. We kind of closed right up against these highs, so I was like a little hopeful. Probably have to cut those come Monday. But yeah, I really looks really weak, right? Last Thursday and Friday. So to me, as a bull, now all I can really wait for is like for sellers to fail at one of these levels, inside week low or inside day low, and take this back up to at least the inside day high, potentially maybe even up here to go clean up this gap, go test prior value up here, right? And maybe even see rotation back up to this point of control, maybe. But until we can get back over like the inside day low, inside week low, I can't really get long. I don't really have a level down here that I love getting long at. Maybe this one potentially should sit right around like the 70% retracement of this leg up. Sort of makes sense. Got a high volume node there, point of control there, this balance. But if we don't get that, like I'm just expecting this to kind of just traverse towards the lower end here before seeing what we do next or thinking about what we do next. Okay. Essentially the same thing on NQ. We had these couple of pivot highs here. Wednesday, Thursday took us back, got back over, established some value above, and made a leg higher into end of the day 2 Fridays ago. Monday and Tuesday did this, looked good up against the upper end of this, or really just Friday's highs, Thursday and Friday's highs. Looked good had we held. Had some NVIDIA news after the close and gapped lower once we found kind of acceptance here. Right, I mean, you had some China news overnight that even took us back up to this like 880s, or I think it was maybe a little higher, but took us back down and just kept coming lower. Friday was just an inside day between these two balances. On Thursday, made it look even worse. Right, we couldn't really do anything. Closed right up against these pivot highs, but overall still within this around 92. I think we can sort of divvy this up into like 1 and 2. Right, so it might make this 820s kind of important, or more importantly, this 500s. But you know, am I gonna be long here intraday? Maybe. I might put on some like scalp longs here, but I'm not gonna be long here thinking we go make new all-time highs, right? I got to take a level to level. We got to work with this inside day low, inside week low first, right? Sort of target for retest back up to these if we do get runners to go up there. And the reason I'm sort of only discussing the long side is I only play long side. I just don't play downside, right? For you that play downside, just sort of just work with the levels and sort of flip my kind of thinking around. But yeah, I can't be bullish below Friday's lows or last week's lows. Okay, it's just simple as that. Am I still going to be long intraday? Yes, but I know where we're at on the chart. I'm not shooting for 100 pointers, 200 pointers, 300 pointers. If I am long here, I'm just scalping, right, with some really minimal risk. I might join the downside occasionally. May end up doing that depending on where we open Monday, or if let's say we just magically open above, right? If buyers fail that reclaim, yeah, just give it up and just go short. But yeah, it feels like there's an underlying bid to it. But yeah, we're just waiting for headlines. It's tough being a bull, and even like as a bear, like you're really like being limited to your moves, at least the last couple of sessions, right? I mean, we had like 500 800 point ranges here, and now you're given 200 point ranges. Kind of hard to adjust to it very quickly. I did okay Friday, Thursday and Friday. Friday in the morning I did okay. At the end of the day I kind of gave it up because we kind of just chopped. I gave up all of it actually and some. But yeah, kind of hard to adjust to. But yeah, I think we keep it simple, at least to start the week, and just solely work with where we're at up against Friday's low and last week's low, for both ES and NQ. Okay, pretty simple. Let's do that. Main message is longs, be careful. I'm not really bullish if we're gonna be below those. I'll probably just cut my calls and wait for a future day to load those again. Gold going higher. There are a couple equity names I was looking for. I know earlier today when we went over them. Bitcoin looked like they were in a good spot. I think we were looking at MSTR. Looked pretty darn decent. Back over these last couple pivot highs. They got earnings coming up in a couple weeks. They look good back above that's like 320s, right? So I'll look for it. Decent chance it's uncorrelated to NQ, and you're sort of seeing it. I don't want to say rotate into Bitcoin, but they're seeing relative strength. So I like that part of them, and I think it's going to be MSTR or MSTU if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I'll probably play either of these. Some options on this, and I already have equity in this, so I'll probably play some options. So I like that. Oracle is another one. We got another dip into this 126 to 123. Is this anchored view up down here? I'd be interested in maybe trying a short-term long. Maybe I don't know about long-term. I nearly came down to this point of control not too long ago, and yeah, I'd be interested in attempting a bit here. I'm not gonna risk more than, I want to say, like, let's say get my cost basis here. I don't want to risk more than like 5% on this. So we'll try to get long in that range and take it back up to ideally you can just hold it forever, but well, main target, at least for any short-term expirations, 138s, 140s. Okay. UPS, another one I was thinking about. Just chuck it into my long term. They give you a decent yield. kind of back down to this sort of the lower end of this base that they were making for 6 years. So yeah, I might just start picking some up Monday, and I think I'm willing to put it in here as opposed to putting it back into my CD at 4.5%, or my 14-month at 4.5. So that's, yeah, I'm gonna be holding this one for a while. The 6% or 6.7 yield is kind of tempting. It's just if it starts breaking down from this, yeah, you got real issues, right? You're gonna end up like trading down into like 60s again. But I think it's worth a shot here. All right, so I'm gonna be doing that. Yeah, looks okay with this wick. I'll just buy it first thing Monday. And I was looking at XBI. A little interested in it. I came down into these lows again. I remember we bought it here. I remember on October, see, Monday. Yeah, it was after this weekly outlook we did it. We bought it on October 30th. We did well there. It's back at that pivot low. I have enough in biotech though. That's the issue. Okay, now this one's earning setup someone brought up. Looks pretty good over these past couple of pivot highs. Right, and just try to play an earnings run up. Ideally just try to get in long up against 580 essentially. That would sort of be the idea. To play earnings run up, and maybe leave some runners for earnings itself. Looks pretty okay. We'll do that. ServiceNow, similar setup, but not the same. Not as strong, clearly. They got earnings this week. Collins might be a little jacked, but I like the fact that they bounced off this last big pivot high, and I think they had another one back here. Maybe, I don't know, it's a different name. Big pivot high there, bounced back, sort of trading back down to this point of control up here. So, on something like this, if I'm working with a point of control, like that's all I'm risking is I'm get involved here and nothing more, nothing less, right? So this one, depending on where we open, I'll just buy it first thing Monday and risk like 257 or something like that, 258 even. So we'll do that. And I think that's about it in terms of other equity setups. Tech doesn't look good. So I'm still in them. Don't get me wrong. I added a decent load 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, a week ago. I added a lot more than what I usually do week to week. But I think I might just go back to adding just my typical amount. But yeah, a couple decent setups. Just a couple names I'll be watching. And of course ESNNQ. So what are they doing? What are they doing now? Trailing lower. Looks like you're about to open a lot lower. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. As a bull doesn't look great as a seller. I think what happened Thursday and Friday and what you're doing now, I think you get a decent ride back down into the 17,820s at least, and 17,550s ideally. If they somehow manage to fail this breakdown here, I'd be surprised. Like I'd probably just get back. I'll get long 260s or 360s and try to hold it for a little bit. Anyway, those are my thoughts for this week. But yeah, have a great week.